kind of like part of that whole farm. Either was Doug as a whole farm. It was kind of in the deed. So Kyle, obviously this is a big year for you, and 25th anniversary of a historic day and historic year. And so what are you doing to celebrate it?
Well, with COVID, it makes it a little bit hard. It's kind of interesting when you talk about anniversaries. I can't believe, number one, it's 25 years. It's almost like that's all you have now is to look back on how many years you did something. It was such a significant event for baseball, significant event for me, and it has all this emotion in it. When I played, they used to ask me, what do you want to be remembered for, and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't have any patience for that. I was like, that's into the future. That's when I'm sitting in my rocking chair and I'm looking back. Well, I'm in my rocking chair now. So looking back on it, I'm really proud of the accomplishment. I'm proud of the fact that my team could count on me each and every day. And when I start to think about it in my older age, I think it's worth celebrating. It's worth reminding yourself of some of the things that you value.
What about, so when you went through that, was there a point in time to that whole process and that whole career where it was times where you just didn't think you were going to be able to do it? And when did it actually trigger to you that this is real, I actually have a shot at this?
Well, you know, the irony of all this is that most people make the assumption that I was obsessed with playing every day, that I was a streak. But that was the end result of an obsession for baseball, or a desire to be an important everyday player. And my dad especially defined an everyday player as literally every day. You know, you can miss the playoffs by one game after playing 162. And it happened to us in 1982, my very first year. We went to the last game of the season. And so we started to think, how can you make up that one game somewhere along the line that you should have won, that you lost? And so therefore you say all games are important in 162. And so you don't know what's going to happen. So all you can do is try to meet the challenges of each and every day, which is what I try to do. And I was resilient, I was young, I was learning how to be a better ball player. I was in the middle of that lineup. And the streak was formed by managers writing my name on the lineup. I couldn't tell Earl Weaver to play me or not play me. And then all of a sudden, I had about 800 games or 1,000 games, and then people started to notice that it was a streak. And to me, it was just playing. And I enjoyed that. And I could really think about the challenge of today only. My dad used to say, you can't play tomorrow's game until it gets here. And you can't really replay yesterday's game. You can learn from your mistakes or whatever happened yesterday, but you can't replay it. So you might as well play the game here and now. So if there was a moral to the story on how you do something, it is focus on today, focus on the process, focus on what you can do today. And then when tomorrow comes, you play tomorrow's game.
It was a great conversation about the mental endurance, what it took to become really the Iron Man, and that epic day for you. But for me, it's being a business owner for 20 years in these really interesting times of COVID, and what got me to 20 years of business. And you know, I always said this to you, I really feel like you represent what I try to accomplish in SmartLink, and building a business and going to work every day. And there's days where I don't want to be there. There's days, same type of thing. It's,
sure,
you know, things that maybe just aren't going right. And you know, I deserve a vacation, right?
Oh,
I deserve
sure.
a 2-month vacation, right? I should be able to get that off. So I mean, mentally, it's that same thing. I agree with you. For me, it's being that mental tough part. You know, you don't have to be as physically tough in the office as you're doing in the field, obviously. So it's all a mental game at that point, and really building that endurance. So as we go into COVID-19, you know, again, with no real end in sight, got an election year on top of it, right? So it's about most as chaotic it's probably ever been since I've owned my business. You know, for me, the mental part was, you know, leaning in actually even more, right? Going 10 forward even more, leaning on that 20 years experience and endurance, and the times I've come through, the good times, the bad times, the roller coaster rides of growing, not growing, hitting the numbers, not hitting the numbers. You know, satisfying banks, not satisfying banks, having them in my door every month or not seen them for a year, taking all that experience and really going into COVID with a really good mental endurance mindset to lean in probably more than I ever have. I'm probably more focused than I've ever been in a long time, probably the last 5 or 6 years. I'm way more focused and dialed in on SmartLink and the value of what needs to be done, and really lead the team out of it, right? Go around and rally the troops and get everybody to, because everyone's looking at me as, okay, what do we do, right? So, and embracing that mental endurance part, and driving that force through, and as great as the people are around you, there's really, you know, there's one Iron Man, right? And there's one one CEO of SmartLink, right? So how do you take your experience with all your businesses now and COVID, and how you leaning back on that endurance and becoming the Ironman 25 years later, and your anniversary this year? Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
And how are you using that to really get through this time as a youth baseball owner and tournaments and everything else?
So first of all, when I think about it, perseverance is the first thing that comes to mind. There's a big poster about me persevering and a definition of perseverance, and you have to persevere to go that long,
Right.
and you have to persevere to break the record. But
Right.
persevere sometimes to me is a temporary thing. Endurance is a long-term thing.
Right.
So if you build yourself for the long term,
Right.
then you're setting up a situation where you can endure. I mean, although you can make a case and you can nitpick the definitions a little
Right.
bit, but when I think of perseverance, it is persevering through tough times. And so you're going to have tough times. How do you get to the other side?
Right.
How do you refocus yourself? Let me work on the day-to-day activities. And I look up and I go, okay, I'm at the other side.
Right.
So you're persevering. You're almost putting it out of your mind. You're using your mind to get you through something.
Right.
Endurance is sort of a combination of being successful, persevering,
Right.
getting through, and then also looking at the big picture. If I spend all my off season working on my endurance, to physically, then I'll play better as the year goes on, so I can play the season in its entirety. So you're thinking in a big picture sense as opposed to, and I know I contradict myself sometimes, but when you're persevering, you really focus on the day to day, and you say, okay. And especially perseverance to me is when you identify particularly tough times. Because I said it's really easy to show up at the ballpark when you're winning,
Right.
everything is going good.
Right.
You don't have to persevere through that. You can enjoy that.
Right.
You enjoy your success. You enjoy, and it's not that you're working any less, but it's the amount of reps that you put in that allows you that gives you the endurance to play.
Right.
And sometimes it's a matter of mental reps that you put in and how you look at something that can give you long-lasting success,
Right.
which is really what endurance, means to me.
I think perseverance almost feeds the endurance, right, in my mind. The perseverance, that day-to-day stuff, and there's the little things that are like, there's the little victories right now that really make you think, I can do this longer. Things are going to turn.
That's really good.
It's a really good positive piece, right?
Perseverance is the little victories.
Yes, it is, so for us, and I correlate that in my businesses,
That is so true.
Is as you know, I'm in the telecom business, and we're a big real estate company nationwide, and the interesting for us is Sprint and T-Mobile just merged, and it's a little things like that was going on for 2 years, right? It was supposed to happen in a year's time frame, didn't happen. So we know work's going to come, but in the meantime, both companies are going to do nothing for 24 months, right? So two of our big clients. So how do you get through that? I think that's perseverance. But if you kind of live that perseverance every day and look for the little wins and the little things to kind of keep you going to that, then I think it builds to your endurance and gives you the ability to wake up one day and go, wow, 25 years ago, I was the Ironman.
So
you probably never really thought of it.
No,
even
not
the
at
day
all.
the day you were waving to the fans, right? It was like, really, what's the impact of this?
So what made you get into SmartLink?
Well, it's a little bit of luck. I was actually selling generators for a Generac Mid-Atlantic distributor, and I got a phone call about 5 years doing that, right before Y2K. Got a phone call from a telecom company down in Virginia called CFW at the time, now in Telos, and they told me they wanted to buy 30 generators to put on these cell sites. Put that in perspective, at the time, selling 2 generators was a huge deal. So I'm like, oh, this guy's crazy. Lonnie Hale, still never forget this. And so I went down, met with them, met for a day down in Waynesboro, Virginia, down 64 and 81, and drove back to DC. Next day I get a PO for 30 generators. Got back in the car, drove back down. I go, what are cell sites? What are we doing? Like, what are you doing again? Show me what we're doing. So he took me around to a couple mountaintops down. He took me to Wintergreen Ski Resort and Devil's Knob and showed me the cell site. Which actually,
So you saw that as an opportunity to learn, so you could sell 30 more to
yeah.
something on the side.
I mean, obviously this is happening, and this was really at the time where the bag phone was still kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
And if you used the phone, it was like $200 a minute, so it was like an emergency, and that was it. And you wouldn't dare give one to your kids because you couldn't afford it. So Y2K happened, and then in that 2000, the spring of 2000, I decided to launch and go into telecom and really just chase the business. And I really had no preconceived notions of who we were going to be or what we were going to really do. And I kind of saw myself as this one-stop shop. So, and for that reason, when I was at Kelly Generator, I started selling generators, and over the next year and a half, he started asking me, "Hey, can you install it? Right, not to sell it to me, can you install it and put a concrete pad in, put a fence around the cell site, and can you do this?" And I was sure, mark it up, sure. As long as I can mark it all up, I'll do whatever you want, right? We'll do whatever you want. So I started doing that. So I saw this need for these guys were so busy trying to build these networks across the country. Then I met Nextel, and then I met AT&T, and started to figure out really what these guys were doing, and launched the business, and was in business for about 60 days. Got my first PO, which is now T-Mobile, to build. Basically be the construction manager and build out their whole switch center. About $2 million PO. I'm the only employee, and I'm subbing it all out. So it was, as I said earlier, it was like nothing I could do was wrong, right? For those first 2 years, like this is way too easy, right? So then I learned that business is way harder than that, and then so that's what got me into SmartLink, and then so over time with SmartLink, we just started to look at really and absorb and adjust, and a lot of what we've talked about, right? You got to make some adjustments and the game plan, and some decisions you make were bad, and you learn from them, and you move on. We built a big switch center, became a construction manager for T-Mobile, started to build some cell sites, started to do some staffing, started getting into real estate. And so over the last 20 years, we really kind of defined who we are, and we really ended up becoming a really big staffing company. And that's really what we learned. We saw the biggest niche, least amount of resistance. You kind of follow that flow in business, and we became a nationwide staffing firm. And we're a really niche player in the telecom space, and a lot of the big companies like Aerotech and Kelly Services and those guys really weren't in that space yet. It was kind of new to the market. So we had a really good runway to do that, and we grew the company very quickly and became a nationwide company pretty quickly. By 2005, we were pretty much in every state. We had people placed, and with AT&T and T-Mobile now, and Verizon, DirecTV, Dish, all these different companies, and it really exploded. And then the next chapter for us was really the real estate piece, which didn't know a whole lot about what it took to build a cell site from a real estate standpoint. We dove headfirst into that. And now really the SmartLink's really become over 20 years is we're the largest real estate broker in the industry, right? So if you're AT&T or T-Mobile or anything else and you want to get a cell site, there's 5G coming up, and you want to go out and get a site put on in Annapolis, Maryland, you need to find a spot to put a location to put antennas so you can get the signal. You hire SmartLink to go down and actually do the negotiation, whether it's this building we're sitting next to, it's St. Mary's Catholic Church, or it's the Maryland State Government Capitol Building. We want to put a cell site on there. So we handle all that brokerage, we handle all the engineering, and we still do staffing. We're more focused on cybersecurity staffing now as we've evolved. The networks that we've been building for the last 20 years, cybersecurity is a big issue, and it's a big piece of what we do. And then we also do this asset inventory and management. Now that the networks are very mature, there's a real big push and need for actually understanding what they actually have out on the cell sites. Most of them have no idea what's out on the cell sites, equipment-wise or material-wise. So if you take it like a, if you probably did an asset management of all the Major League Baseball teams, you'd find a lot of balls that they weren't accounted for, right? You know what I mean? So we cycle those back in and put them back in and redistribute them back out to the teams is kind of a way to think of it. So we're trying to save them on capital. So that's really the four big divisions of SmartLink. And
so if I could stop you for a minute, sure. I should have came to you in 2001 when we were building the stadium out there, because I thought that the stadium would have been a really good cell towers.
Your light towers, your lights would have been
all
great.
The light towers all the way up.
Is there anything
on there? So is it too late?
No.
It's not too late for that?
No, it's not. We could definitely talk about that.
Because I remember seeing it in Roger Dean Stadium down in Jupiter, Florida, whatever. I thought that was the coolest thing, is that you took the existing towers that had height on it, and you turn it all into
we take all your lights and turn them into towers.
Station. Yeah.
And the lights.
And so it's still possible?
Yeah.
I thought we missed the window on that.
No, 5G is making everything possible again, because the amount of content, it's 5G is really what everyone's talking about, and that's it's really just another, no different than really 4G. It's another acronym for the next generation, fifth generation of technology. And really what that means is that it's the Internet of Things. It's probably the best way to say it. When you have Alexa in your house to Tesla's electric car they're trying to build, everything's running off the network, which is 5G. And so with the real next 3 to 4 year builds will probably be the biggest builds we've ever seen. So there was 3 points in time over the last 20 years, we're like, well, we can't build any more cell sites. We pretty much have built the whole country. Well, the coverage now is worse than it's ever been. And mainly not because the cell sites are failing or that there's not enough cell sites, it's that technology really has progressed so far. This COVID-19, everybody's working from home. Like, we never built the networks for that. We built the networks for people to go into Manhattan and
Right.
DC and work. Those places are empty. So there's a lot of infrastructure there that's built that may never get used again at the capacity it was at. So we'll be redistributing that stuff back out in the suburbs, back where people are living again now, and there's been this huge dynamic shift. So COVID-19 will be a huge, I call it the iceberg, a little bit, a floating iceberg, right? Where it's going to end up landing connects would be interesting to kind of see how people live, you know? For the last 10 years, there's this big push for people to live back in metropolitan areas where you can kind of work, run, play in a community. And now people are really starting to think about going back to the white picket fence in the yard, in the neighborhood, and the sidewalks, and, you know, privacy, and, you know, community, and so it's been interesting to see. So the networks the last 20 years really weren't built for that. So there'll be a big shift.
I don't know about you, but I thoroughly enjoy this.
Yeah.
Because it makes you think in ways, and I think I'm big on analogies. Like, you try to compare things in one area to another, and I compare it all with baseball, because that's what my dad did. My dad understood life, understood everything through what happens in baseball. He said, what happens on the baseball field happens in life, and what happens in life happens on the baseball
Right.
field. So when I'm searching to understand business concepts or management concepts or leadership, I naturally kind of go into the space of baseball, so I can put it in that incubator and then think about it, and then it makes more sense coming out the other way. So when you're talking about different challenges that you've had for the 20 years, and the growth and the changes and the management and hiring and scouting and all the things that go along with it, here I am starting to use the baseball terminology to understand it. This is very educational for me, and it confirms some of the things that I think I knew instinctively, but now I'm starting to think, how can I apply those things as I go forward?
Today, Cal, this again emphasized the time I have spent with you, whether it's been you know, on the boat, you know, at your foundations, and just seeing you interact. You know, you are who you are, and you know, the three things that really come on the mind with me is very gracious. I'm always shocked how gracious you are with people that come up. Obviously, you're the Iron Man. People know who you are, you know, and you're very humble is the second thing about it. And you know, you never. I'll ask you about it, and you'll talk for about 2 seconds and take the next subject, right? And it says a lot about who you are and your character. And so when we talked about doing this, it was really easy for me, because I think those three things really instill how I believe I run the company, and really think about and how I treat people. And you know, I've watched people stand in line to get your autograph, and you put a smile on your face and sign it and ask them their name, and make them for that 5 seconds feel so important. Cal Ripken, he looked at me and asked me what my name was. So, you know, and I think that's such a unique gift. I'm really happy that I've gotten a chance to know you over the last 5 years, and really see you in a light that you know, you see Cal Ripken, the guy on the poster, but you are who you are, and it's really a breath of fresh air when I meet anybody, whether they're athletes, professionals, famous business people, when you meet them and they're actually who they are and what they say they are, and that's the most enjoyable part for me.
That's probably the biggest compliment I've ever received, is that you're who I thought you were.
Right.
And so, and a lot of people ask me when I get a chance to meet other people, are they like what I think they are? And they have to explain it, and I go, no. Or, I mean, because I think people naturally, and I always said this, and maybe it's my parents that instilled this into me, is just because you can hit or throw in a field doesn't make you any different. You have a special skill. Everybody has a special skill. Sometimes it takes a while to find that special skill, but if you have that sort of attitude and perspective, I think you can get along and be successful. But that first comes from your parents. It first comes from where you grow up, and then you kind of build off of that.
It was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Business and sports. That's what we do.